Jared Cole pushed his mop across the cold metallic floor of Orion Outpost 9, humming an old Earth tune no one aboard would recognize. The station orbited a dead planet in the Telax system, a forgotten way station where diplomats, scientists, and soldiers came and went, but mostly they ignored him. Janitors like Jared were shadows in the background meant to clean up after others and remain invisible. He liked it that way. The steady hiss of the air recyclers, the faint creak of expanding hull panels, and the dull buzz of fluorescent lights were the soundtrack of his life. No need to talk, no one to impress, no politics or ambitions. Just him, his mop, and the endless corridors. That quiet existence shattered the moment the Zenthari delegation arrived. The Zenthari were tall, multi-eyed, and translucent-skinned, aliens, diplomats from a species known for cold precision and sharp distrust. Jared noticed them immediately, not because they stood out, they always did, but because one of their members stopped dead in his tracks, eyes fixed on the faint mark at the base of Jared's neck. Jared caught the glance in the reflective metal of a corridor panel. He touched the spot subtly, but he already knew the mark was impossible to hide. "Stop," the Zenthari ambassador commanded sharply, his 6 eyes narrowing. A wave of tense murmurs swept through the nearby human officers and diplomats. Security. Personnel appeared from the side corridors like vultures encircling Jared without a word. "Sir, we need to escort you for questioning," one said, voice tight. Jared's heart thumped wildly. "What's this about?" he asked calmly, but no one answered. Whispers reached his ears. The ashen flame. The harbinger. Forbidden. He was led through the maze of the station, every footstep echoing louder than the last, toward a dim interrogation room deep within the outpost's bowels. Officers who once ignored him now stared with a mix of fear and awe. "Who are you really? Mr. Cole?" demanded a stern voice. It was Captain Lynn, the station's security chief, her eyes sharp beneath a brow furrowed with suspicion. "I'm just a janitor," Jared replied, voice steady. Captain Lynn shook her head. "That mark on your neck is a symbol known to few and feared by many. It's the sign of the ashen flame, the harbinger of Saul's wrath. A legend from humanity's darkest days, thought long dead." Jared's eyes flickered with something unreadable. "Legends die, Captain, but sometimes they don't stay buried." Outside the room, the station's AI, Ramiel, was already working. It probed databases searching for any record of the symbol, but every time it scanned the mark, systems glitched, files corrupted, histories erased. The ashen flame was classified, beyond top secret. No data was supposed to exist. Minutes turned to hours. Interrogations grew heated. Jared answered calmly, never breaking eye contact, never revealing more than he needed to. But internally a storm was brewing, a long-forgotten past clawing its way back. Meanwhile, the Zenthari delegation conferred in tense huddles. Their telepathic ambassador, Kelvoreth, sent sharp, silent warnings to the station's council. The presence of the mark was more than a coincidence, it was a catalyst. Something ancient and powerful was stirring, and they feared the consequences. Back in the cell, Jared's mind raced. The mark on his neck was a relic of a war no one wanted to remember. A war where humanity fought not just with weapons, but with legends forged in blood and fire. He had lived through it, or at least part of it. And now, after decades of silence, the past had caught up to him. The door slid open abruptly, and a figure stepped in. A man with cold eyes and a sharp jawline, dressed not in uniform but in something darker, more secretive. "Commander Ward," the man said quietly. Jared stiffened. "That name is long buried," he replied, voice low. "But not forgotten," the man said, sliding a data pad across the table. "And the galaxy is about to remember. We have to move quickly. The Cathari fleet won't wait for explanations. They've placed a bounty on you." Jared glanced at the pad. Images flashed across the screen. Star systems burning, fleets mobilizing, and his own face labeled Subject Ashen Flame High Threat. He looked up. "I'm no one's weapon anymore." The man smiled grimly. "No, you're the weapon they never stopped fearing." Outside the interrogation room, Alarms blared faintly in the distance. Somewhere on the station, someone was pulling strings Jared hadn't seen in years. The forgotten janitor was no longer forgotten. He was a spark, waiting to ignite a fire that would sweep across the stars. The metallic clang of the interrogation room door shutting echoed behind Jared, sealing him inside a prison of suspicion. Outside, the hum of Orion Outpost 9 felt heavier, thick with dread and unspoken fears. Kelvorth, the Xanthari telepath, hovered near the observation window, his many eyes narrowing. The faint mark on Jared's neck was more than a symbol. It was a sign that stirred echoes of a galaxy-wide nightmare. "Tell me, human," Kelvorth's voice slithered through the room, cold and clinical. "How did you come to bear the mark of the ashen flame?" Jared met the alien's gaze steadily. "I didn't choose it. It chose me." The room crackled with tension. The security officers exchanged uneasy looks. "This mark was a legend whispered about in the darkest archives, an ancient prophecy tied to a figure called the Harbinger of Soul's Wrath, a myth born from humanity's darkest war, the War of Extinction, the war that nearly ended them." The station's AI, Ramiel, flickered, its holographic interface attempting to scan the mark again. Each time the system froze, files corrupted beyond repair. The Ashen Flame's data was locked behind multiple layers of Black Ops encryption, an enigma intentionally buried by those who feared what it represented. Kelvorth's eyes flared briefly, a telltale sign of distress among his kind. "You do not understand what you carry. The mark is a curse and a weapon. It signals the return of a force long thought extinguished." Jared's jaw tightened. "I am no curse. I'm a man who survived." Suddenly, alarms shrieked through the station. Red lights bathed the corridors in urgency. "Security breach," a voice crackled over the comms. "Hostile ships detected. Cathari fleet approaching." The Cathari, ruthless warlords who once razed human colonies to ash, had placed a deadly bounty on any trace of the Ashen Flame. Their fleets were notorious, their ambition boundless. The outpost went into lockdown. Captain Lin barked orders. "Secure all entrances, no one leaves without clearance." But Jared felt a chill settle in his bones. This was no longer about interrogation. It was about survival. "Why me?" Jared demanded, voice low. "Why target a janitor?" Kelvorth's expression hardened. "Because you are not merely a janitor. You are Elias Ward, the last known operative of Project Emberwake." Jared flinched involuntarily. Project Emberwake, a name he hadn't uttered in decades. Ramiel's voice cut in, steady but urgent. "I have restored partial data on Emberwake. It was a human military project during the War of Extinction designed to combine myth, technology, and human willpower into a weaponized legend. Commander Ward was the project's pinnacle, part man, part symbol." Jared swallowed hard, memories flickering at the edges of his mind. Faces, explosions, whispered commands, and forgotten tongues. "I don't remember much," he admitted, voice shaking. "They wiped my memories, tried to bury me under the dust of time." Kelvorth's many eyes pierced him. "But the mark remains, and with it, your destiny." Suddenly, the interrogation room's walls hummed as the station's AI began locking down every system. Security forces poured into the corridors, bracing for the incoming assault. Jared's thoughts raced. The station wasn't just a prison anymore. It was a trap. "We need to move," Captain Lin said sharply. "The Cathari won't wait. They want the Ashen Flame extinguished once and for all." Jared nodded, his resolve hardening. "If they want a war, they'll have one." The Xanthari ambassador stepped forward, his voice grave. "The galaxy remembers what the Ashen Flame brought. Destruction, chaos, fear. We must stop it." "But maybe," Jared said quietly, "it's time they remembered what it means to fight back." Outside, the Cathari fleet darkened the stars, a shadow falling over Orion Outpost 9. The station trembled as the first strikes landed, hull plates buckling under plasma fire. Jared's cell door clanged open. "Get ready," Captain Lin said. "We're evacuating you. There's more to your story than any of us guessed." As Jared followed her down the narrow halls, he caught a glimpse of his own reflection in a polished panel. An ordinary man with a flame-shaped mark glowing faintly beneath his collar. The ashen flame was no longer a myth. It was alive, and it was burning brighter than ever. The evacuation shuttle jolted as it tore away from Orion Outpost 9, weaving through debris and tracer fire. Jared Cole sat silently, the hum of the engines a dull roar against the storm raging in his mind. Beside him, Captain Lynn monitored the comms, her expression tense but focused. "You're lucky we got you out," she muttered, eyes scanning for threats. Jared's fingers traced the faint mark on his neck, the symbol of the ashen flame burning softly beneath his skin. It was more than ink or branding. It was a key to a past he barely remembered. "Why me?" Jared finally asked, voice low. "Why now?" Lynn's gaze met his. "Because you're the last living link to a war we all thought was over, and because someone wants to make sure you never tell the truth." She leaned closer. "There's a secret project, Jared. Emberwake. You were the project's crowning achievement. A genetically enhanced warrior created to embody humanity's greatest weapon, fear itself." Jared swallowed, memories flickering behind his eyes. Flashes of cold steel, screaming orders, faces lost to time. "I don't remember." "You were wiped clean," Lynn said. "Your memories, your identity. They erased everything after your last mission, one that changed everything." Jared's heart pounded. "What mission?" Before she could answer, the shuttle's comm crackled to life. "This is Ramiel," the station's AI's calm voice interrupted. "I have accessed classified files on Project Emberwake, initiating data upload." A holographic display sprang to life between them, casting eerie blue light. Images, documents, and encrypted files scrolled across the screen. The Emberwake program was humanity's secret weapon during the War of Extinction, a covert campaign against alien empires that sought Earth's destruction, Ramiel explained. It combined genetic engineering, psychological warfare, and ancient mythologies to create soldiers who were not just fighters, but living legends. Jared leaned forward, absorbing the information. "A weapon forged from fear." "Yes," Ramiel replied. "You, Elias Ward, were the pinnacle, the embodiment of the ashen flame. Your mark was a symbol of that mythos, designed to inspire terror in enemies and hope in allies." Lynn looked grim. "But the project was shut down after the war, deemed too dangerous. You were supposed to be erased, your existence scrubbed from all records." Jared's mind reeled. "Then why am I here? Why am I being hunted?" Lynn's eyes darkened. "Because the galaxy remembers the ashen flame. The Cathari, the Xanthari, others, they all fear what you represent, and there are those who want to resurrect that power, either to control it or destroy it." The shuttle shuddered violently, throwing them off balance. "Incoming fire!" Lynn shouted. Outside the viewport, streaks of plasma lanced through space, as Cathari fighters swarmed. The shuttle's shields flared under assault. Jared clenched his fists. If they want a fight, they'll get one. As the shuttle spun through evasive maneuvers, Ramiel continued. "Commander Ward, your memories are fragmented, but the neural architecture embedded within you can be reactivated. Your abilities, enhanced strength, rapid healing, strategic cognition, are dormant but recoverable." Jared closed his eyes, struggling to recall faces and moments lost to time. "I don't want to be a weapon." Lynn shook her head. "You're more than that. You're a symbol, and symbols change wars." Suddenly, a burst of static crackled through the comm. "Warning, unidentified signal detected," Ramiel announced. "Possible enemy boarding party detected on shuttle." Lynn grabbed her weapon. "Prepare for contact." The shuttle's rear hatch hissed open moments later, and shadowy figures slipped inside. Cathari operatives, clad in sleek armor and moving with lethal precision. Jared stood instinctively, shifting into a combat stance. Despite the years of silence, muscle memory surged through him like wildfire. He struck first, a rapid combination of blows fueled by years of dormant training. The operatives faltered, surprised by his ferocity. "Keep them off me," Jared, ordered Lin as he moved through the narrow corridor, disabling enemies with precise strikes. The fight was brutal in close quarters, but Jared's instincts and strength overwhelmed the attackers. With a final push, the boarding party retreated, leaving the shuttle eerily silent again. Panting, Jared leaned against the wall. "I'm not just a janitor." Lin nodded. "No. You're a ghost of a war no one wants to remember. And now that you're awake, the galaxy will never forget." Jared stared at his reflection in the viewport, a man marked by a symbol that meant more than he'd ever known. A symbol that had survived decades of erasure. "The ashen flame isn't just a story," he whispered. "It's my past and the future of humanity." Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, but now Jared saw them differently, not as distant points of light, but as a battlefield waiting for the spark to ignite a new war, and this time, he would be ready. Jared's shuttle touched down on Titan's icy surface with a grinding shudder, the cold darkness outside a stark contrast to the heated chaos still pounding in his chest. Captain Lin led him through a labyrinth of tunnels beneath the moon's frozen crust, her footsteps steady, but her face tight with urgency. "We don't have much time," she said quietly. "They know where you are. The Cathari fleet isn't just chasing a ghost. They want a war." Jared rubbed the back of his neck, feeling the faint warmth of the mark beneath his collar. The ashen flame was no longer a myth. It was a beacon and a target. "Who are these people?" he asked as they entered a large cavern, walls lined with ancient tech and faded banners. Lin glanced over her shoulder. "The Sons of Sol, a resistance cell made up of veterans from the old wars, operatives who served alongside you. Before, your memories were wiped. They've been waiting for you." Before Jared could respond, a group of figures emerged from the shadows. Hardened faces marked by scars and time, eyes flickering with recognition and disbelief. "Elias Ward," a gruff voice said. "You're alive." Jared nodded slowly. "Not who I was. Not yet." An older man stepped forward, his voice gravelly but firm. "We thought you dead. The ashen flame was a symbol to rally behind, and now it's real again." Lin gestured toward the holographic display in the center of the cavern. "The Cathari and Zenthari have turned this into a galactic crisis. They fear the Emberwake project, its power, its legend, and they'll do anything to stop you." Jared's eyes narrowed. "Then we'll have to be faster, smarter." The Sons of Sol shared whispered plans, strategies born from years of guerrilla warfare and lost battles. They didn't just want to survive. They wanted to take the fight back to those who hunted them. One woman stepped forward, a fierce-eyed strategist named Mara. "The Emberwake wasn't just a weapon," she explained. "It was a cultural weapon, a myth designed to unite humans scattered across the stars. You're the living symbol of that myth, Elias, and people are ready to believe again." Jared felt a surge of something he hadn't known in years, hope. But it was short-lived. An explosion rocked the cavern. Alarms blared. "They found us," Lin shouted. Outside, Cathari assault ships hammered Titan's atmosphere, unleashing swarms of fighters and dropping boarding pods. The battle had come to them. Jared's instincts kicked in. "Get to the vault," he ordered. The Sons of Sol rallied, rushing to defend their sanctuary. Jared's body moved with a lethal grace, fighting off soldiers with precision and power, born of years of training and genetic enhancements. But even as they held the line, Jared's mind raced toward the truth buried deep in his fractured memories. Project Emberwake wasn't just a war machine, he muttered. It was a story, a weapon forged from fear and hope. Inside the vault, ancient consoles hummed to life as Jared approached. Databanks flickered, revealing fragments of lost technology, relics of the human past meant to be forgotten. Mara worked quickly, decrypting the files. "This tech could turn the tide," she said. "But it's tied to you. Only the ashen flame can activate it fully." Jared placed his hand on the main console. A surge of energy coursed through him, awakening dormant parts of his mind and body. Flashes of his past, missions, Faces, pain, and sacrifice flooded back in rapid bursts. He gasped. I remember now. Lynn looked at him with newfound respect. You're not just a myth, Elias. You're humanity's spark. Outside, the battle raged, but inside the vault, a plan was born. We hit their supply lines, dismantle their fleets, and rally the scattered human colonies, Jared said, voice firm. We remind the galaxy who we are. The sons of Saul nodded in agreement. The war they thought lost was awakening. As Jared prepared for what lay ahead, a chilling transmission crackled through the vault's comms. This isn't over, Ashen Flame, a cold voice hissed. We will extinguish you, and everything you stand for. Jared's eyes burned with determination. The hunt had only just begun. The icy tunnels beneath Titan hummed with energy, the air thick with anticipation. Jared Elias Ward, stood before the ancient Emberwake core, a relic of human ingenuity buried deep within the moon's frozen heart. The device pulsed, faintly, synchronized to the rhythm of his heartbeat and the mark glowing beneath his collar. It's more than technology, Mara said quietly beside him. It's a living legacy, the fusion of myth, machine, and mind. Jared placed his hand firmly on the core's interface. The moment his skin made contact, a surge of raw power erupted, coursing through his veins like wildfire. The Emberwake awakened inside him, its dormant systems syncing with his genetic enhancements. Pain and clarity collided as memories flooded back in vivid bursts. Battlefield carnage, desperate commands, faces of fallen comrades, and the crushing weight of choices made in the crucible of war. He staggered but held steady. The Ashen Flame wasn't just a legend. It was a living force, a weapon forged from humanity's darkest hour, meant to rise again when the galaxy teetered on the edge of destruction. Do you feel it? Mara whispered, awe in her voice. Jared nodded, vision sharpening as newfound senses ignited. He could see electromagnetic currents, detect the faintest traces of energy around him, even perceive the emotional undercurrents of those nearby. The Emberwake was awakening fully. Suddenly, the cavern's comm crackled to life. Captain Lynn's voice was strained but resolute. Cathari reinforcements inbound. They're bringing heavy armor and siege weapons. We need to hold the line. Jared's eyes burned brighter. Then we won't just hold the line, we'll break it. With a roar, he surged forward, every movement enhanced by the Emberwake's power. His fists struck with the force of a wrecking ball, crushing armor and sending enemies sprawling. The Ashen Flame was no longer a myth whispered in fear. It was a blazing inferno. The sons of Saul rallied behind him, their morale ignited by the symbol reborn in flesh and fire, but with power came burden. Jared felt the Emberwake's hunger, a relentless urge to push forward, to conquer, to burn away weakness. It was a double-edged sword, and if he lost control, it could consume him. In the chaos of battle, a message came through his neural link, a vision from the past, haunting and cryptic, a voice distorted and urgent. Elias, remember, Project Emberwake was never just a weapon, it was a promise and a pact between humanity and something beyond the stars. Jared staggered, clutching his head. What does that mean? Mara reached out, steadying him. There's more to the Emberwake than technology and myth. It's tied to an ancient power, something humanity barely understands. The battle raged around them, but Jared's mind raced to piece together fragments of a truth buried beneath layers of secrecy and time. Outside the tunnels, the Cathari forces pressed their assault, breaching outer defenses with overwhelming firepower. But each time they advanced, Jared and the sons of Saul struck back harder, fueled by the Emberwake's awakening. Amidst the chaos, Jared made a decision. The power inside him was growing, but it was incomplete. To harness it fully, he had to confront the source of the myth itself. We need to go to Saul, he said, voice steady despite the storm raging within, to the birthplace of the Emberwake. There's something there waiting for me. For us. Lynn nodded. Then we make it there alive. As the last of the Cathari retreated, The icy tunnels fell silent once more. Jared stood at the edge of a new beginning, the ashen flame burning brighter than ever. But deep within, he knew the true battle was only just beginning. The journey back to Sol was perilous. The transport ship, cloaked beneath layers of stealth tech salvaged from the remnants of Emberwake, slipped through hostile space like a shadow on the run. Jared sat in the cramped cockpit beside Captain Lin, his eyes fixed on the swirling stars outside the viewport. Each one felt like a ticking bomb, a potential enemy waiting in the darkness. "Why Sol?" Mara asked from the communications console, her voice tinged with urgency. "The homeworld is a fortress now. You sure it's safe?" Jared's fingers brushed the faint glow of the mark beneath his collar. "Safe or not, it's where it all began. The Emberwake Project, the place where the ashen flame was born, and where it can be reborn." Lynn nodded, tightening her grip on the controls. "The government there? They erased your name, erased you. They'll want to keep it that way." Jared's gaze hardened. "Then we'll have to force them to remember." As the ship pierced the outer defense grid of Sol's orbital perimeter, the tension inside the cabin thickened. Ramiel, the station AI they'd left behind, now operated remotely, feeding encrypted data streams to the crew. "Unusual activity detected on the surface," Ramiel announced, its calm voice a stark contrast to the growing unease. "Anomalous. Energy readings consistent with Emberwake technology have been detected near the ruins of Old Washington." Jared's pulse quickened. Old Washington, the birthplace of the original Emberwake labs, buried beneath centuries of decay and secrecy. "This isn't a coincidence," Mara said. "Someone's trying to reactivate the project." The ship descended through dense cloud cover, revealing a shattered landscape scarred by centuries of war and neglect. Skyscrapers lay in ruins, their hollow skeletons clawing at the polluted sky like the fingers of ghosts. Below, a faint glow pulsed from beneath the ruins, the heartbeat of an ancient power awakening. The transport touched down amidst the rubble, engines quieting to a whisper. Jared stepped out, the cold air biting through his jacket as he led the team toward the source of the energy. The ruins of the lab were eerily silent, shadows stretching long in the fading light. Ancient consoles flickered weakly, their data cores still humming faintly beneath layers of dust and debris. Jared placed a hand on a cracked terminal, the ashen flame mark flaring brightly in response. The Emberwake core within him resonated with the dormant technology, a symphony of power and memory. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the cavernous chamber, low, cold, and familiar. Elias Ward. Jared spun, weapon drawn. A figure stepped from the shadows, a man cloaked in dark armor, his face hidden beneath a visor that reflected the flickering lights. "You've come far," the figure said, voice distorted but unmistakable. "But you don't understand what you're dealing with." Jared's grip tightened. "Who are you?" The figure lowered his visor, revealing a scarred face etched with cruelty and regret. "Call me Cade. I was once like you, a soldier forged by Emberwake, but I chose a different path." Cade stepped forward, eyes blazing with cold fire. "The project was never about protection. It was control. The government used it to create weapons, to suppress rebellion, to bind humanity under fear." Jared's mind reeled. "Then why come back now?" "Because the truth is unraveling," Cade said grimly. "The Cathari, the Zenthari, even the Sons of Sol, they're all pawns in a game bigger than any of us. And the Emberwake, it's the key." Jared's eyes narrowed. "What game?" Cade smiled darkly. "The galaxy is on the brink of war, yes. But the war you think you're fighting, it's a distraction. A shadow to mask something far worse lurking beyond the stars." The chamber trembled as distant explosions rocked the ruins. Reinforcements, both human and alien, were closing in. "We don't have much time," Cade warned. "If you want to survive and understand, you'll need to trust me and embrace the full power of the ashen flame." Jared hesitated, the weight of his past pressing down. But beneath the hesitation burned a growing certainty. The Emberwake was more than a weapon. It was a legacy and a responsibility. "All right," Jared said finally. "Show me." Cade nodded. "Then prepare yourself. The true war begins now." Outside, the skies darkened as fleets converged on the ruined city. The shadows of Seoul hid secrets that would change everything, and Elias Ward, the Ashen Flame, was ready to face them all. Jared stood at the edge of the ruined chamber, the weight of Cade's words pressing on his mind like a storm about to break. The Ashen Flame burned hotter beneath his skin, its power surging and demanding release. The Emberwake wasn't just a weapon, it was a force of nature, and Jared was the spark. "Show me," Jared repeated, voice steady despite the chaos closing in. Cade's eyes gleamed. "Good, because the next steps will change everything." The former Emberwake operative led Jared deeper into the subterranean labyrinth beneath Old Washington. The walls were lined with ancient tech and encrypted terminals humming with forgotten energy. Here, the true heart of Project Emberwake awaited. A colossal core chamber, its energy flickering between dormant and alive. "This," Cade said, gesturing to the core, "is the source of the Ashen Flame. A fusion of alien technology recovered during the war and human genetic engineering. It's why you are what you are." Jared stepped closer, the mark on his neck flaring in resonance. The core pulsed as if recognizing its lost child. "Activate it fully and you'll become more than a myth," Cade promised. "You'll be the weapon the galaxy fears, or the shield it needs." Before Jared could respond, the chamber shook, violently. Explosions rocked the ruins above as the Cathari and Xanthari forces clashed outside. Time was running out. "Choose," Cade said, voice urgent. "Let the Emberwake consume you, or face oblivion." Jared's mind flashed with visions of destruction, of colonies burned, of friends lost, of a galaxy choking on war and fear. But beneath the pain, a fierce resolve took root. "I won't be a weapon for destruction," Jared said firmly. "I'll be a flame for hope." With a roar, he plunged his hand into the core's pulsating heart. Energy surged through him, searing and electrifying, igniting the ashen flame within until it roared like a star reborn. The chamber exploded in light and power. Jared's body glowed with radiant energy as the Emberwake's full potential awakened. Outside, the battle paused. Both allies and enemies turned their attention toward the glowing figure emerging from the ruins. The Cathari warlord leading the assault snarled, recognizing the symbol. "It can't be. The Ashen Flame returns?" Jared's voice echoed, amplified, and resolute. "I am the Ashen Flame, the reckoning for all who threaten humanity's future." He unleashed a wave of energy, knocking enemies back, dismantling weapons, and turning the tide. The Cathari and Xanthari forces faltered, caught between awe and fear. Back inside, Cade watched, his expression unreadable. "You've surpassed even what I imagined," but the victory was short-lived. An ominous pulse rippled through the core chamber. The alien tech at the heart of Emberwake began to destabilize, reacting unpredictably to Jared's power. "It's too much," Mara shouted. "Overcoms." "The core can't contain it." Jared gritted his teeth, fighting to maintain control. The Emberwake surged violently, threatening to tear him apart from within. "Cade!" Jared barked. "Help me stabilize it." Cade rushed to the control panel, fingers flying over ancient keys and encrypted codes. "Hold on. I'm rerouting power to the containment fields." The chamber trembled. Sparks flew as the ancient machinery strained against the energy. With a final surge of effort, the core stabilized, its power harmonizing with Jared's essence. He collapsed to his knees, exhausted but alive. The ashen flame still burned within him, fierce, controlled, and more powerful than ever. "Is it over?" Mara's voice crackled anxiously. "For now," Jared said, standing slowly. "But this is just the beginning." Cade approached, a new respect in his eyes. "You've become what Emberwake was meant to create, a symbol, a force, a future." Jared glanced at the horizon where the battered fleets retreated and the stars burned cold and distant. "The galaxy will know the ashen flame, he said quietly, and when it does, everything will change. The cold dawn broke over the ruined skyline of old Washington, painting shattered towers in hues of pink and orange. Jared stood atop the highest rubble, the Emberwake core's energy still humming. Faintly beneath his skin, the mark on his neck glowing steadily like a beacon. Around him, the sons of Sol and the remnants of human forces regrouped, their spirits lifted by the return of the ashen flame. "Do you feel it?" Mara asked softly. Standing beside him, Jared nodded. "The war isn't over, but something has changed." His voice carried a new weight, a blend of hope and responsibility forged in fire. The Emberwake technology had reawakened in his veins, but it was more than power. It was a legacy, a symbol that humanity could rally behind in the face of a galaxy slipping into chaos. Captain Lynn approached, her expression a mixture of pride and caution. "The Cathari and Xanthari forces are retreating for now, but they'll be back. This is only the start of a larger conflict." Jared's gaze hardened. "Then we prepare. We don't just defend, we lead. We remind the galaxy what it means to fight for survival and for freedom." Cade stepped forward, his dark armor scuffed but his resolve unbroken. "I was wrong about you, Elias. You're more than a weapon. You're a symbol of what humanity can become." Jared glanced at him. "And what about the government? The ones who erased my past?" Mara shook her head. "They'll try to silence you again, but this time you won't let them. The truth of Emberwake and the Ashen Flame will be out there. People will choose their own future." Jared took a deep breath, feeling the Emberwake's power pulse beneath his skin. Steady, strong, alive. The flames inside him were no longer just a weapon of war. They were a promise that humanity would rise, no matter the darkness. Looked up at the stars, each one a distant world, a potential ally or enemy. The galaxy was vast, but with the Ashen Flame rekindled, Jared knew they weren't alone. "We'll build a new alliance," he said, voice resolute, one forged in fire, but tempered by hope. As the first ships of the Sons of Sol prepared to depart, ready to spread the ember of rebellion and resistance across the stars, Jared felt a rare peace settle over him. The janitor who had been erased, hunted, and forgotten was now a leader, a legend reborn. The Ashen Flame wasn't just a mark on his neck. It was the future of humanity, and it would never be extinguished.